Welcome to Just Curious Media. This is Let's Talk Movies, and I'm Jason Connell. On the show today, I'm joined by special guest, Sal Rodriguez.
Thanks, Jason. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you, sir, because this, Sal, tonight is episode 50 for Let's Talk Movies. A little milestone.
It's a celebration.
A celebration. And why not have a celebratory movie, a classic? And we just had the actual day of the year yesterday, of which we both watched this movie. Because today we are talking about Halloween 1978, just rewatched.
Jason, I feel like we have to clarify. This is the original Halloween 1978. And I say that because there's been a lot of Halloween movies since then.
A lot of Halloween, Sal. A lot more than I even realized until I was doing notes for this episode, because I have not seen them all. And we're going to have fun and ping pong the titles back and forth of the franchise in this episode so we can educate ourselves and others. Maybe you've seen them all, but I have not.
Jason, I've not seen all of them. I've seen probably about half of them. I remember there was one that I think that had LL Cool J, who's one of my favorite all-time rappers. I think it was one of the H2O movies. So yeah, I do need to catch up on the overall franchise.
I love LL Cool J. Forget about it. Classic. So this one, the original, came out October 27th, 1978, Sal. And of course, it's a horror/thriller. Those are the genres on IMDb anyway. But let me bring up the poster because it's an all-timer. Woo! Look at that. Wicked. Sal, please describe the poster for our friends.
Well, you see a jack-o'-lantern, but it looks like a jack-o'-lantern in motion. And then right next to the jack-o'-lantern is a hand with a knife, almost like the knife in the hand is one with the jack-o'-lantern. The jack-o'-lantern is one with the knife in the hand. And this is a huge knife. And it's raining down, and it has blood on it.
And there's a saying on here, besides Halloween across the top, but it says, "The night he came home." He being Michael Myers, that is. So, a classic, and I'm going to read the synopsis, but dare I even move on without saying the name, John Carpenter. I mean, this was like the mega breakthrough, put John Carpenter on the map. In fact, all of his movies after this had his name above the title. I mean, John Carpenter Presents, John Carpenter did this. He was on a tear by the time he hit the 80s, Sal, but it all started here. I mean, this was the one that just, you have that iconic movie that's like, oh yeah, and you become a household name, and this was it.
Yeah, what happens is the studios then have confidence and faith in you. The world of movie producing has confidence and faith in you. So if you have a success like this, well, then you get a blank check after that.
Blank check.
Yep,
Fun
blank
movie.
checks.
Okay, so this is the synopsis. 15 years after murdering his sister on Halloween night 1963, Michael Myers escapes from a mental hospital and returns to the small town of Haddonfield, Illinois, to kill again. Sal, it's a lot like your backstory, I think.
I think it is. I'm still on the run from a mental institution. Yeah, it's interesting how this all takes place. I had forgotten how quickly in the movie that happens.
Well, I've always said, you don't need to get caught down with devices and, a lot of trickery and, let's do this and let's have a MacGuffin here and then we'll... No, just streamline that bad boy. We're doing this. This is in real time almost. This movie concludes less than a day later. So it's just happening at a warp speed, and I love that. The Terminator does that. So many movies that just kept it clean, and you're going from A to B, and the audience is on the ride with you because it's great filmmaking. You're not trying to, we got to have this, and then that'll entice the audience. This is just awesome storytelling for what it is. Let's not blow this thing out of proportion. It's a slasher movie, but it's like the slasher movie. Psycho could be considered a slasher movie, at least a part of it, right? It could be. There's a lot of tie-ins here, and I know Carpenter was a big fan of Hitch and Psycho and all that, and I know he honors it, but this would be considered a slasher movie. Am I right, Sal?
I kind of have always thought that a movie like Halloween, there might be another movie from the 80s that escapes me, maybe early 80s, but I definitively think that Halloween kind of almost created the slasher genre, and because I tie that to an era. So I wouldn't include Psycho in that because that was really early. I would say the late
but
70s,
it had an
early
element.
80s.
I
No,
agree.
but I mean,
Yeah.
as far as like, to me, a slasher
No,
movie.
this would be a slasher movie. This.
Yeah, I know, but a slasher movie is also representative of an era, and to me,
Yes.
it represents late 70s, early 80s was the era for the slasher movies. I think they also had a few others again that were slasher movies. They're representative of the genre.
I mean, this created a whole genre and a lot of films, replicating, imitating, whatever, including Halloween itself. I mean, Jaws spawned, no pun intended, a lot of shark movies or, fish movies or whatever it was. Orca, that was in the 70s. But yeah, so I love to go back to early, beginnings. And it's no mistake, Sal. It's John Carpenter's at the helm. It's not like it's some other guy who has the goods and then would transcend this genre and then keep going and hitting different highs. I don't think it's his best movie, but I do think it's such a great movie. And young filmmaker, lots of ambition, trying to prove yourself, like Jaws, like Steven Spielberg on Jaws, like, we got to try this. We don't have a lot of money and time. But they were running out of money and time on Jaws. But you know what I mean here? Like, they didn't have a huge budget, so they had to be very creative. And I'll talk more about exactly what he did on the movie. Besides directing, he co-wrote, and he was the composer. There's like another great song in the movie, but he did all of the music. And Sal, the music is such a key element of this movie. Without it, it's not the same.
Yeah, I was really enjoying the score. I was almost realizing that it was kind of Pavlovian, where as soon as you hear those keys, you're like, you're ready. Yeah. It definitely adds that layer to make this movie what it is.
Much like Jaws. Dun, dun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then, that's coming after Jaws. So it's like, okay, that works. I like this element. Yeah, it's amazing. So Carpenter, like I just said, he would go on to do The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing, Christine, Starman, Big Trouble in Little China. I mean, it goes on from there, but there are classics I just said. I mean, I don't know if there's a better scary movie than The Thing. I don't know. I don't know if it's even possible. And it's not even the original, but his version's so good. And Christine may be my personal fave of his, but that can change.
That's your favorite?
It's like, to me, it's like, and then Big Trouble, for what it is, it's a comedy in a different way, action comedy, and it's just so enjoyable. But really, The Thing and Christine, I can revisit them all the time. They hold up, much like Halloween. And as a kid, Escape from New York blew my mind, Sal. I'd never seen anything like it. I didn't understand it. It also terrified me because it's like, wow, cities can be like that because you're young and impressionable. And, but a classic. And Snake Plissken, come on, Kurt Russell. So that's who we're talking about, who's at the helm here. And his co-writer was Debra Hill, rest in peace. She passed away March 7th, 2005, at a very young age, at 54. But she also wrote The Fog with John Carpenter, Escape from New York, and Escape from L.A. But just, great force they were here on this. And his music, I mean, his ringtone, Sal, is probably a high seller on iTunes because you hear it on lots of people's phones. Like, I have the Jaws ringtone and the Kill Bill, but I need to work in Halloween now.
Also merchandise. They have a lot of merchandise.
Of course.
That has the little sound chips playing the music, yeah.
Speaking of merchandise, this episode will also have some great memorabilia, collectibles from Sal, of course. You're going to bring that to to our audience, to me. I don't know. Keep them hidden now, but I know you've got some Mike Myers and some other goodies over there, and I cannot wait to see them.
They are hidden, but I'm looking at them. I'm looking right at him.
Okay. Well, you can give us a quick Mike Myers look if you want to.
Well, he's going to take a little peek up.
Oh, shit. Here we go. Ah! Oh, my gosh. Terrified. Looks a little more built than the Mike Myers in this movie and this installment. So, quickly on the cast. Out of the gate, love Donald Pleasence.
Top billing, Jason. Top
billing.
Yeah.
As Dr. Samuel Loomis. Rest in peace. We lost Donald Pleasence February 2nd, 1995 at 75. I mean, he's in so many movies like The Great Escape, You Only Live Twice, Halloween 2. He does reprise himself, his role as Dr. Loomis. And then, of course, you have Jamie Lee Curtis. This has happened so often, Sal. Like, how's that movie so good? You got Carpenter, now you have Pleasence, and you have Jamie Lee Curtis, who had the goods as well. Prom Night, True Lies, and most recently, Sal, it was like the Oscar-winning movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. She's married to Christopher Guest, who's an incredible iconic director, comedy, actor, whatever, talent. And then there's Nancy Kyes as Annie, and she's great in the movie, by the way. Annie was really good. Revisiting this movie just yesterday, I hadn't seen it in a while. It's like, oh yeah, these performances are like, I'm surprised I didn't see her in more things, Sal, over the years, but she was in more Carpenter movies like Assault on Precinct 13, The Fog, and then there's P.J. Souls, who I knew very well from other movies. She plays Linda. She's great. She just nails that role. It's like P.J. Souls made all these movies in a short amount of time because she always looked exactly the same. But she was in Carrie. Love Carrie. Great, great movie. Brian De Palma. Rock and Roll High School. Stripes. One of my favorite. Ivan Reitman. Rest in peace. And then Charles Cyphers plays Sheriff Lee Brackett. Also in Assault on Precinct 13 and The Fog. And Major League. A classic comedy. And then last one I'm going to mention is Kylie Richards. She played Lindsay. Little girl in the movie. She was like a kid actress in the magical world of Disney. And then, Sal, she would grow up to be on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, the Bravo show that spawned all these sequels. And her sister, her older sister, is Kim Richards, who was in a classic Disney movie, I believe, Return from Witch Mountain with Eddie Albert, a movie that I would watch all the time. So there's a little bit of history for you, a little trivia.
And Wikipedia lists Kylie Richards not just as an actress and obviously part of the iconography of Halloween, but she's listed as a socialite.
Oh, I know, I saw that. So socialite.
Isn't that interesting?
You want that on your resume, don't you, Sal?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, because a socialite kind of reeks of being a trust fund kid, but I don't know if she was a trust fund kid. But the more you read about her, you see
money
her
in
family.
Halloween.
Her family was well connected.
Yeah. So, Sal, we did this on the Friday the 13th episode, and I think it's fun. We'll just go back and forth, saying the movie title. We'll start with Halloween and the year, and we'll go back and forth. And if you want to talk, like, oh, I saw this one, anything comes to mind, we can. But we're going to ping pong back and forth so we can get a grasp of all the movies in the franchise, because this franchise never really stops. They may have had a break here and there, but it's still going, Sal.
No, you're absolutely right. Like Halloween, we haven't seen anything since 2009. I'm sorry. Like Friday the 13th, we haven't seen anything since 2009. Yeah, this Halloween does not end. Michael Myers keeps going and going, and you don't even appreciate how many there are until you see a list and you stare at it and you go, oh my gosh, there's been a lot of Halloween movies.
Well, to be accurate, there's 13, which is also really interesting. Oh. All the things, if you believe in numbers, and we just talked about Friday the 13th, we just had Halloween. 13's not really a lucky number, so here we go. Halloween, the original, 1978.
Halloween 2, 1981.
So a little bit of a break, but they knew they were coming back to make a sequel. Carpenter was not, though. Let's be clear. He only made the first movie. Now, hey, let me throw it to you so I'm not on your track. First movie.
Jason, are you saying that John Carpenter had no involvement in any of the following Halloweens?
Well, I think once you write characters, much like Robert Mark Kamen on Cobra Kai, once you write characters, your name's probably attached. And maybe he was a producer, but he did not direct. His music lived on, sure. But, I mean, he's not helming it. He's making all those other great movies for us.
That's true. Okay, I got you.
So now comes an odd bird in the bunch.
Yes.
I have never seen it.
You've never seen Halloween?
Well,
I stepped on your line.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, 1982.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's there's no Michael Myers, but it's also
a great
movie
song.
On its own.
It must be the season of the witch. right? Great song.
Was
it's
that
1
it?
year later.
Was that part of the movie?
No, it's just an old song.
No, it sounds. It might be, but I just remember
is that the vibe of the movie? Is that what's going on?
Sometimes they have rock songs.
It's a Donovan track that came out way before that. So I need to see it. I was always told, though, it's not like the first two. And I was like, what is it then? But it's 1 year after the sequel, but you're telling me you're familiar. So it comes out of left field. It has none of the characters, and it's its own standalone thing. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Are there figures for the standalone thing?
Oh yeah. Well, the movie is about this company that makes these evil masks, and when kids get the masks and then they wear the masks, they become dead. And then so there are three iconic little kids that they've made figures out of to pay tribute to the movie. And I would encourage anybody, watch the movie. It stands alone on its own, not related to the rest of the franchise, but it is a good movie.
Okay. So what came next, Sal?
Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers in 1988.
So a gap, 6-year gap, and it was time. But I'm assuming this picks it back up from Halloween 2.
I would imagine so, yeah.
I mean, Return of Mike Myers. They didn't do a Season of the Witch 2, which gets confusing. Okay. So then Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, 1989. The following year, we had a return and we had a revenge.
That was fast.
That was very fast.
And then it continues. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers in 1995. So it went from return to revenge to curse. And I guess
dumped
that would
the number.
It would be unofficially.
They didn't say 6.
They didn't, but it would be unofficially Halloween 6. But there is no 6 in the title.
So I'm going to tell you, I have not seen Season of the Witch, Halloween 4, Halloween 5, or Halloween 6. I tapped out after Halloween and Halloween 2. And then, though, I was very aware of Halloween H2O 20 years later, 1998. I did watch this, and I thought, a little underwhelmed. But again, I saw it in 1998, so I probably need to go back and do like movie by movie. But what was your recollection of H2O?
Jason, I would credit you. I would credit you, Jason Connell, for helping me to revisit old movies. Because guess what? Any of us, you watch a movie years later, decades later, it's going to be different. You are a different person today. I probably have more respect for Halloween today. I was more scared when I first saw Halloween originally, but I have more respect for Halloween today because I know more about it. I can appreciate the direction. I can appreciate the score. I can appreciate the camera angles, all that sort of thing that I didn't appreciate as a kid. So it's definitely cool to revisit stuff. And I think Halloween H2O is the one that had LL Cool J, I think.
Well, there you go. His classic songs. I Need Love. Going back to California.
Love.
Going back to Cali. Yeah, he was amazing. But spoiler alert, and I don't know recently, but I see ads. So Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laura Strode, seems to be alive still because she did pop up in some ways. We know we lost Pleasence in real life, so his character probably didn't continue on.
Well,
so
no, hang on.
If she's
I think that then at some point his Jason, I'm all over the place here because I'm thinking of the remakes from 2007 where Loomis comes back, but he's not Donald Pleasence. He's played by Malcolm.
Yeah. Maybe his character comes back. Yes. But we know Laura is around, and I remember that was a big selling point for the one in 1998, the H2O. I saw the posters. I was like, I'll watch this. I remember Halloween, and not even realizing there'd been all these other ones. It's like, you know what? I probably need to do this. But I also became very, I wasn't into franchises that just kept doing this. I looked at it like, it's beneath me. Friday the 13th, they just keep going. I'm older now. We have a movie podcast. Usually we discover classics, and we're just talking about the original, the classic. But I do like to see where franchises go, good, bad, and ugly. And sometimes there's a gem in there. But this is kind of fun. So, Sal, what do we have next?
Halloween Resurrection, 2002.
Okay. All right.
Would you call that Halloween 8 unofficially?
We could. We definitely could. And then Halloween 2007, it's a remake of the original, to my understanding. Haven't seen it. I'm just reading notes. Have you seen that one?
Oh, we're going to start getting into the ones that I have seen recently, but I do not
Oh,
think
okay.
I saw Halloween 2007 remake. I don't think I did.
Okay. And then?
Halloween 2 2009, which is a sequel to the 2007 remake. Okay, so this is a remake of Halloween 1 and 2, 2007, 2009.
Yep. And then Halloween, I'm just kidding. Halloween 2018, which is a direct sequel to the original, ignoring previous sequels.
Okay, but Jason, this is where I started jumping on board.
Crazy.
But this is where I started jumping on board again, I believe.
Have you seen
the
Halloween?
2018 movie.
Which one? 78, 2007, or 2018? All of them. So I'm getting confused. Like, wait a second. There's a remake, and they said, nah, forget it. We're doing the real remake now, or a sequel. So this is a sequel to the original, not a remake of the original. So what about Halloween 2? Is that ignored with the 2018? Like if you went in the store and bought like a 2-pack, I'll take Halloween 1978 and then Halloween 2, which is 2018, and not the one from 81. It gets confusing, Sal.
Well, it's kind of like the Exorcist movies, where Exorcist 2 was basically ignored.
Yeah, right.
On all the rest of the sequels.
So, okay, please, the next one.
Halloween Kills 2021, a sequel to the 2018 film. Okay, definitely saw Halloween Kills.
So it's a sequel to 2018's Halloween, which was a sequel to the original.
Yes.
Okay.
There we go. I think I got you.
Okay. And then,
I think I'm following along here.
Most recently, the 13th installment is Halloween Ends. That's an interesting title. 2022, and that's a sequel to Halloween Kills, which is a sequel to Halloween 2018, which is a sequel to the original Halloween 1978, of which we're talking about today. Whoo! I thought Friday the 13th jumped the shark somewhere along the way. I think Halloween absolutely does here. I'm going to watch them all at some point. I've got to figure this out. But there's a lot happening here. I don't know what characters. I'm assuming Jamie Lee's still around. But, is Mike Myers, like, if there's sequels, is someone, who's helming these? I haven't looked this up. But I should probably not ask you on the spot. But
no, but I will tell you this, Jason. I think
did Rob Zombie do these?
There was the Rob Zombie. I think was the 2007. I think was the Rob Zombie one.
So maybe I heard good and bad, but I think more bad. So if Rob Zombie did a couple, maybe that's what happened. They said, okay, those are the Rob Zombies. Yes. We're now going to do this. But did I get the right note there online? Is the 2018 Halloween really a direct sequel to the original, or is it a remake? That I don't know. I've got to look that up. Different source material.
Okay, because I was just about to say that a fan could watch Halloween 1978, Halloween 1981, Halloween 2, and then jump to Halloween 2018, a direct sequel to the original. So you could jump from 1981 to 2018.
Yeah, you probably could.
And be on schedule.
I do read I am reading online right now that it does say direct sequel to the 1978 movie of the same name, because I'm assuming Halloween 2, did it have, because I've only seen it like, God, it has been so long ago, was Jamie Lee, no, she was in the second one. So that's weird that they would say, oh, this is a sequel to the original. The original sequel has Jamie Lee Curtis in it, Jamie Stroud. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. This is what happens when different people, organizations, production companies start getting, a franchise like this. It can go any which way but loose. But there's a lot of material for people to enjoy and fans to, hang on to and glean to. And so I'm excited to go down this path if this is a franchise I really want to see again. But it all starts here, Sal. The 1978 Halloween. This one's got the goods.
I always think that a person could just watch the first of any franchise and probably be okay. You get the gist. You watch the first Halloween, you get it. You watch the first Exorcist, you get it. You watch the first... Yeah. Well, hang on. You watch the first Friday the 13th, you don't get it. But let me use another example.
Yeah,
you watch the first Hellraiser, you get it.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to watch the second Gremlins really to understand what's going on. That's something you have to... No, I don't know. I don't know if that's true. But, okay. So why not play the trailer?
Oh, yeah.
It holds up well. I mean, we're just kind of revisiting this great movie. Let's play the trailer, enjoy it, set the stage for some tone, and the camera work and the music, and then we'll just kind of talk about the movie and our experiences and a little bit of trivia. So, and if anything, if nothing else, people are going to be rushing to rent, rewatch an old DVD, a VHS, a Laserdisc, buy it digitally, whatever, like we were yesterday. I know probably should have done this before Halloween, but we were inspired on Halloween to watch Halloween.
It's true. And I discovered, because I'm always looking to get something, some little perk.
For free.
I was able to see Halloween for free on Crackle.
Yeah, you are into Crackle. Okay, here we go. We'll hold our applause. Oh, no, sorry. We'll hold our comments for after. Red Band trailer, by the way.
Halloween night. A small American town. 15 years ago.
Michael?
Halloween.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil. I think he'll come back.
Exploring uncharted territory.
Totally charted.
Just talk.
Sure. The only reason she babysits is to have
Halloween.
Okay, Linda. Come on out. Halloween. The night he came home.
Woo!
That music, man. Holy
I know.
moly.
The music does it. Oh, it's so good. That
It does it. That
synthesizer.
the music is what's the word? Disturbing. It's a disturbing sound that puts you on edge, which is great for a horror movie.
Oh, it's so good, Sal. And I know that John Carpenter and his son were doing concerts not that long ago, last few years.
Yes.
Not just this music. He did a lot of music in his movies and other music. And so I would have loved, and maybe I can still catch a show at some point in time. But to hear this, and I'm sure they have some visual cues of some sort. But it's beautiful. It's simple. It's primal. And it's so scary. And I did read that he was really fond, of course, of Psycho and that music. And this is kind of a modern version, of course. And then, of course, I'm sure he was inspired by Jaws for its simplicity, but effectiveness. So we could go a lot of ways here. We can do some notes, or I'm going to throw it to you. Do you want to jump in with your collectibles now or hold?
We might as well, because I'm pretty excited about them. I'm more excited.
I can tell you're gushing over there. So.
I'm more excited about my own collectibles from Halloween than ever before.
Okay,
and
so
the ones that I have
that.
here are from 2004, made by a company called NECA. They are called action figures, but by today's standards, even by the same company, NECA, have multiple points of articulation. Back then, they didn't have as much articulation, but they did stand better. I will say that.
They were baby dolls.
As a purist, I will say that the more articulation a figure has, the less likely it can just stand on its own. So the first one I want to share is probably my favorite, and is a favorite among fans. And the reason I'm sharing him first is because he makes the first appearance. And that is... we have young Michael Myers.
Gosh.
As he is depicted
That's awesome.
after killing
That's just like
his
him.
sister. And then he
Does
goes
that come
out onto
off?
the lawn.
Does the mask come off?
The mask does... Well, the masks can be on him like so.
Okay.
And then you can, you can take off the mask.
Creepy Myers.
Yeah, there he is.
And then he kills his sister.
Yeah, this I think is, because if you look at his face, I think this is meant to replicate as soon as they remove the mask. His father removes the mask on the lawn, and we get to see young Michael Myers and his cold, evil stare. I always thought his stare, though, as a kid was less evil,
he
just
looks
sort of
like a kid.
Confused, sort of catatonic.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
wow,
then
that's a
we
good
have,
one, Sal. NECA, well done.
That's a nice one. And they never remade that figure. It may have done with the licensing rights with the actor, maybe, but that figure's never been redone and is highly regarded. Also for many years until he was redone, highly regarded, Dr. Loomis, Donald Pleasence.
Oh my gosh.
Donald Pleasence, and this
Sal,
would
that
replicate,
looks amazing.
This would replicate the moment that he is shooting at Michael Myers. They made this
Spoiler
as
alert.
part... Yes, spoiler alert. They made this figure as part of a 2-pack called The Night He Came Home, which is him and Michael together in a 2-pack.
Playing poker.
So there is Donald Pleasence.
That does look like Dr. Samuel Loomis, I have to say. Donald Pleasence. That's great.
As an aside, Jason...
Can he put his hand... how much articulation does he
Well,
have?
okay. I bought this figure
Limited.
secondhand. And if you buy a figure or anything secondhand, you don't know what happened beforehand. I think someone might have glued the arms, because even though I hit these with a hairdryer, as is the custom for an old figure, you want to get moving. I hit it with a
That's the
hairdryer
custom?
still. Well, because what happens is plastic gets cold, and when plastic is cold, you got to look out. You want to heat
Plastic also melts.
Well, you can get a hairdryer and make it just hot enough for you to manipulate.
Is there a collectibles hairdryer? Like a
there
special
should be.
little one?
You could probably sell one in Target at this point.
Man, that
but
looks great, man.
What I'm really
Very
excited
good.
about, as an aside, is when you have an action figure of a person where you don't have a lot of action figures. I believe that Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis is the only Donald Pleasence action figure on the market, and they have since made some newer versions that are beautiful.
That's great.
And of course, the man of the hour.
Oh, here we go. Whew.
Michael
Now, is this from the
Myers.
original? Oh, he looks great.
This is
Super
the
scary.
original Michael Myers action figure made by NECA from 2004 that was part of what was called the Evolution of Evil 2-pack. We had young Michael and
great.
older Michael came as a set. And this has been the only, speaking of all these remakes that we've talked about, this has been the only NECA original 1978 motion picture action figure made by NECA, even though they've made a bunch of Michael Myers since, especially recently for Halloween Ends, Halloween Kills, but they have not revisited or redone this one. So this is a classic action figure by NECA 2004.
It's amazing. He used to really be into color, Michael Myers, as a kid. He had a very flamboyant outfit. And then he just kind of went more, utilitarian, industrial. He hides in the dark better now.
No, but you know what I realized, Jason, in talking to you tonight? You know what I realized? Michael Myers only kills when he's wearing a mask. Michael Myers has not killed without wearing a mask.
Well, as far as we know.
As far as we
however,
know. But
I don't know
what
if that's
that means
true.
Is you can remove his... What? When?
I don't know if that's true. I'm calling you out. I don't think that's true.
Go ahead.
Because when he escapes from the hospital and then they find the truck on the side of the road that he had murdered someone on the way home, he didn't have a mask yet.
Well,
So
we
that
didn't see it, but you could assume that. You're right. But then that whole scene about the hardware store, there's a lot of folklore about the continuity there.
Sure.
Because they're trying to say that he got the mask and the overalls from the hardware store, but that came later.
Yeah.
But you
I
know what, Jason? You are right. But the only time we ever see him kill.
He's got
the only time we ever see Michael Myers kill is
I'm just a guy. Hang on a second.
There you go. So I'm wondering, like, if Michael Myers were to attack you, if you could take his mask off, he might not kill you.
He'd be safe. We know that does not work with Jason. That doesn't work with Jason.
No.
Did you just kill Pleasence?
Oh, no.
What happened?
Little Michael Myers' arm. This is what I told you about plastic.
Wait, it's broken?
Yeah, it is. I'm going to have to glue it. So here's what happens.
Okay.
Here's what happens in the world of toy collecting, and then I'll shut up.
Okay.
I can glue his arm back, and then I sell it, and then the new person doesn't know that his arm is glued. Wow, and that's what I think happened in the case of Dr. Loomis.
Good karma happening there, my friend.
I think that these arms are glued, and I got this secondhand, so I'm not going to mess with them. Anyway, I'll glue that back on, and that is my NECA Halloween set from 2005.
Wow. Great set there, really. You've got young Myers, old Myers, and then you have Donald Pleasence, Loomis. Amazing. Really, really good stuff. You do not have a Laurie Strode, though.
So NECA later on released the Laurie Strode only recently. And speaking of Laurie Strode, her character's so different. In the scene there especially, I really got a good look. She's such a scaredy cat running around. And now Laurie Strode, now Laurie Strode is kick-ass, and her recent action figure has a shotgun accessory.
She's pulling Linda Hamilton from Terminator 2. Mm-hmm. She's now buff and she's ready to go. T2. But in T1, what we call it Terminator in the business, she was a scaredy cat. And then she finally had to step up at the end and crush him in the... Sorry, I love that movie as well.
Terminator
James Cameron props. So that's great, Sal. Now we can delve into notes. I'm glad we did that because you wouldn't have lasted 5 more seconds without showing those. So we know
I was sitting on needles.
So watching this again, I have not seen it, hadn't seen it. I hate to admit this, but it has been a while, at least 10 years, right? But watching it again now with just, it was Halloween night, putting it on, and maybe it was a little bit less than 10 years ago, but I really watched it. I felt like a whole new experience. Yeah, I know some of the beats, but I was really focused on the the craftsmanship of the movie, the suspense, and really appreciated so much of it. I also had some questions, okay, because that's how I do things. So we're not doing a scene-by-scene breakdown of this movie right now. It deserves that, but we're just kind of revisiting, talking about it just rewatched. And the suspense, it's a masterpiece. This movie is a masterpiece in suspense, and Carpenter is, no surprise there. But I have some questions. So Michael Myers, what was he before 6 years old? Before the figure you have there now without an arm? Were there signs? Like, something's like, he's 6. So he just goes cold killer then? Because hearing Loomis talk about him in the movie, how he's never seen evil like this, it's like, was he really just normal to 5? And then he started to get dark? And if that's the case, I'm hiding the kitchen knives. I'm doing some things, and I'm not letting Mike Myers roam free on Halloween night. But I don't know. No one's ever, there's no more backstory. I haven't seen all the other movies, and maybe we delve into that later. But in this movie, that's all I'm going off of.
No, and that also brings to mind some folklore I read about Donald Pleasence. Apparently there was a scene they wanted to shoot of him talking to his wife, maybe saying, I'll be home late or whatever. But Donald Pleasence says, no, I don't want Loomis to have a backstory.
Interesting.
So I think that was part of the overall strategy, as we talked about in the beginning, was just getting right down to business. We don't get a lot of backstory. There's not a whole lot of build. We just get right into the lines. Yeah.
Let's go.
Exactly. Let's do it. Let's run with it.
So that scene when Michael Myers and the other patients are escaping from the mental hospital, that's a creepy scene. Of course, in these movies, Sal, seems like there's always a rainstorm. It adds trouble. Friday the 13th series does it all the time. Mm-hmm. And so they come up, and was there just a power outage? Because all of a sudden, all these people are on the lawn, and what you don't know initially is that Mike Myers is among them. Yeah. Like in a little robe or whatever, and you just think, what's going on here? And the gates open, and I love how the lady's driving, and she's got a cig, and Loomis is just sitting there. I was like, what's going on here? But very interesting. Is that what your takeaway was? Again, we don't answer a lot of these questions, but there's just these people, and they're out of the mental hospital.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily thought about any power outage, although that could make sense. But just maybe somebody stole a set of keys and opened up a gate, and now here they all are out. And yeah, some of them were just kind of wandering around aimlessly.
Yeah.
But Michael Myers obviously had a mission.
He had a plan. He had a mission.
In fact, he might have been the one to.
Yeah,
he knew how to drive. That's a whole other story. But yeah, Michael Myers possibly set the whole escape off. We just don't know it.
Yeah, I love how Loomis addresses that. Maybe someone taught him how to drive. Really? This is the most evil thing you've ever seen. And Loomis is like, maybe someone taught him how to drive. Like, okay, I don't think he would ever be able to leave the actual hospital. Oh, who's out there driving, doing circles? And that's Myers. Oh, that's okay, that Myers kid. I just don't think they'd let him go out there.
Well, he was locked up in the institution during his permit years, 15, 16. So yeah, he needed to get his driver's permit.
Yeah, but as much evil as Loomis saw in him, I'm like, he's like in a locked room within another locked room.
No, you'd be like,
that's how much evil.
Michael Myers, incredibly evil, but actually a courteous driver.
Good driver, can parallel park like with the best of them. It's kind of amazing. And a very courteous driver, which is just go figure. So now, Sal, I'm assuming that Lori, has to be the case, puts everything in motion because her father has her drop off the Myers keys at the old Myers house. It's now dilapidated. I love how it's dilapidated. It's 15 years, no one's touched it. The neighbors are like, it's not driving our house value up, but, no one's touching it. Because I think it looks better in the movie to have a creepy house sitting there, right? As opposed to, that's the Myers old house with the fresh paint. But she puts it in motion by putting the keys there, and Michael Myers happens to be there and puts eyes on her and becomes fixated on her is it because she reminds him of his sister, or it's just wrong place, wrong time?
Well, first of all, I don't know if we ever know why he's fixated on Laurie Strode in particular, but I don't know why Laurie Strode is dropping off keys at this old creepy house. Well, do we learn why she did that?
Her dad's a realtor. And that's what his car says. And so she's going to go drop these keys. Maybe now the Myers house, 15 years on the block, it's the eyesore of the block, but now it's going to be sold and fixed up. I don't know. Quick aside, I was going to save this for a whole section, but that house, the Mike Myers house, the one that she goes and drops the keys and he looks outside, because this movie is supposed to be in Illinois. We're cheating here. That house at the time was at 707 Meridian Avenue in South Pasadena, California, 91030. Okay, it was there forever. And then, Sal, it wasn't.
What?
It wasn't demolished. It was moved.
What? They moved the house?
They picked that house up, moved it a few blocks down the road to 1000 Mission Street in South Pasadena, California. Same zip code, 91030. It's right there by the railroad tracks. I know South Pass very well. I used to live in Eagle Rock, Mount Washington. It's right there. I would go by all the time. It's cleaned up. It doesn't look like it did in the movie, but they want to make it more prominent attraction in South Pasadena. How about that?
I'm amazed by this, and I did not know this.
Just type in Michael Myers house into your browser and check it out. I was blown away because I walked by one day and said, wait a second.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they did that and didn't demolish it. They hung on to the history.
It doesn't happen. Jason, moving houses does not really happen for sure around here, Los Angeles. People ain't moving old houses. They are tearing them down is what's happening. The fact that they moved this house, I'm amazed by it.
Amazing. And we're going to get into some other houses shortly. We're just going, quick notes here. So then I love that Loomis just knows that Michael is headed to his boyhood home. He just knows. I mean, did they talk? I guess this is like therapy. Did he always talk about it? But he knew. And I love how it's 15 years to the day. It's Halloween, 15-year anniversary. Myers is now what, 21? Was he 6 at the time? So he's 21. He's in his prime or beginning his prime. But yeah, he just knew that was the next step, the obvious progression. He's going back home. So he must have talked about it.
Well, I also like I would call it a device where you have a character like Loomis being the only person in the know, and he's running around warning everybody. Not much different than a later Carpenter movie, They Live, right? Where you have the main character running around that has the knowledge. and nobody else wants to listen to them. Everybody thinks they're crazy. So yeah, I like how Loomis was trying to tell the cop, and the cop wasn't even so on board really. He was kind of like, not sure I believe you.
I'm glad you said that movie, Sal. They Live, also a classic Carpenter movie. I was just rattling off a lot. But yeah, that's a good point. He does run around. What's this guy talking about? But I think his character helps make the movie because you have, Myers is in motion. You have the girl that we can hang on to and the ones we lose along the way. And then you have a guy that has all the insight. And he's a great actor to boot. So yeah, it's a great component. Nice, characters and some of them never even really interact, but yet they know each other. Like Myers and Loomis don't really have any scenes until Loomis is, blowing them away. Yeah. But we know they do through the backstory. Spoiler alert. Well, the gun and the figure kind of alluded to some of that. I also noticed that, again, this is like low budget filmmaking. I get it. But when I see some shots of Myers, show Myers again, not boy Myers, but like 21-year-old Myers. Okay, he looks pretty, he could be a football player there, right? In the movie, though, a little more slight. Not very bulky. Like there's a shot of him, it's like, well, he doesn't. Now, did they switch people sometimes? Probably not. He wasn't a huge guy.
Well, slight, Jason, slight by today's standards, because I noticed the same thing about Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis, incredibly slender, but probably more apropos for the time than today. Like by 2003 eyes, holy cow, Jamie Lee Curtis was very slender. Yeah. But I wouldn't have thought that in 78. Because I might have been slender too.
Was Sal Rodriguez slender in 78?
I was never slender, but I was definitely slimmer. Definitely slimmer.
Slimmer. Okay. Yeah. So you just talked about the Myers mask, and I had a question about that, the Mike Myers mask. Now, we'll get into the trivia, what it really is, but for him to get the mask, Mike Myers went to the hardware store and then got the mask there?
I almost feel like they had to explain how he got the jumpsuit, how he got the mask. When they had the robbery, remember the sheriff was dealing with the robbery?
That's also in South Pasadena, by the way, on Mission, right there.
The hardware
real
store.
Close to his house now.
Yeah, so somebody broke in and stole, what do they say, stole Halloween masks, So they're telling us how he got the mask after we already saw him with the mask.
Yeah, okay. And he returns to the scene of the crime because he drives right by.
He drives right by, and Loomis does not notice right behind Loomis's back.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great shot, though. Now, speaking of locations, the babysitting proximity in locations was very interesting to me. Because early in the movie, Laurie's father gives her the keys, and then she's met by the kid that she would eventually babysit. And then she walks over, drops the keys off. Mike Myers puts eyes on her after, she doesn't see him, of course. And then later, she gets in the car with Annie, and they drive for like 15, 20 minutes. They go by they're high, smoking the reefer, playing Don't
they're hot
Fear
boxing.
the Reaper, Come On, Baby. Great song by Blue Oyster Cult. Also, part of an amazing skit on SNL with Christopher Walken, the more cowbell scene.
That's right.
So, who knew all this was happening? So, they're trying to pretend like they're not high, like, hey, Dad, what's happening here? But after they leave him, they drive off. It's like sunset, and they finally get to the babysitting houses. It's like, well, wait a second. They live so close, or at least Laurie does, I guess all of them do, right by Mike Myers' house. Yeah. And then later in the movie, when Loomis finds the car, which is right up the street, 3 blocks down from the Myers house, he's only walking distance to the babysitting homes. Yep. But yet they had to drive. Maybe they were high and they just went for a joyride and they looped
That's what
back
I'm thinking.
around.
You can explain it away that, hey, listen, we're going to smoke this joint before we get to our location.
Maybe that's it. But really, those things are all close proximity. Very, very close. And also funny that if someone's going to babysit one kid, I know from growing up, having younger siblings and sometimes being the de facto babysitter, and then other kids have to come over. Or when I was really young and there was a bunch of us cousins, one babysitter would wrangle a few kids. It wouldn't be Laurie and Annie babysitting. They'd probably just hire one of them and they just double up because the kids are on opposite sides of the street. Yeah, right.
Especially on Halloween night. You'd make it a slumber party, make it a fun night. They're watching scary movies.
Slumber party.
It would have made sense. Yeah.
And also kind of funny that there's parents are never there. Like, when did Halloween night become, we got to go play bingo, or we're going to the movie tonight? When was that? I guess it's the 70s, because in the beginning, 6-year-old Mike Myers' parents are out.
Yep.
And then later there's no parents. And I get it. It's a great device. Get the parents out of there. It's awesome. And have more babysitters and have more kids and have more locations. All makes sense. But the parents are out, man.
I'm imagining, Jason, you know what I'm imagining? Yeah, in the late 70s, parents were having a great time on Halloween night, leaving their kids with babysitters. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows what they were doing? Probably Quaaludes.
But I'm calling BS because I remember in 78 and 79 and 80 and 81 walking the streets with my parents on Halloween. Trick-or-treating together as a family.
Really?
Yeah.
In Tulsa?
In Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm just trying to think if my mom. I do remember there was a time when my mom walked with me, but then there was a time later when she didn't. I think she might have stopped walking with me once I hit around
she drove
10 or
you
11.
walked.
Maybe, yeah.
So I also love, this is another homage, Loomis describing Myers' doll eyes. Such an homage to Quint describing the shark eyes in Jaws. He's got doll eyes, shark's eyes, and then he's describing the evil in Myers' eyes. I thought it was a great scene, and I love those, when he's sharing all that exposition and just the backstory on Mike Myers to the sheriff. Really good stuff, because who else? He hasn't talked to anybody else. He's really, the nurse in the beginning in the car, but it's really about him sharing with the sheriff. They become kind of tight.
Maybe that's why a lot of people actually, I've learned as a toy collector actually, a lot of people are afraid of dolls. Maybe that's why. It's like you have these eyes, but they're lifeless eyes.
Lifeless eyes. So then another homage. What plays on TV, Sal? What movie do we see play on TV?
Okay, this I only caught yesterday. Caught this yesterday.
Hello.
Yeah, because, saw the movie, didn't pay attention. Yesterday I'm realizing The Thing is playing on TV. The original Thing from Outer Space, I believe it was called. That was then rebooted by Mr. John Carpenter himself, and I think it was 1983, I think. Maybe 82. Such an Easter egg. I would consider that an Easter egg to the fan, because I'm watching a Carpenter movie, and there's a movie on TV that he later reboots. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was 82. One of my faves, that and Christine. All of them, but it's amazing. And it's on TV, and then, of course, he would later remake the Thing and make it its own thing. And it's already had another
remake. Yes,
a prequel.
A prequel.
Yeah,
well, reboot,
82.
prequel. Yeah,
because it's supposed to be before, but it was made after 2011. Enjoyable, but nothing like Carpenter's. And that was really cool. And then I love that suspense when Annie's going to do her laundry, because the laundry is like in another unit outside of the house.
Yeah.
And there's no lights. Lights are never working in a horror movie. And then, but she doesn't get killed in there. But the suspense, the music, that's what I love. It holds back. There's not that many killings in this movie. I mean, relatively speaking, for a slasher movie. But it's like she's not killed then, but later, Sal, she would get killed, fall to her demise, because she parked in the garage, which I thought was also interesting. She's a babysitter, and she pulled that car way up. It's those detached garages. I think it's attached, but it's way back. She could have just parked on the street, but of course he's waiting in the car. But your guard's down because you're expecting him at every moment, and finally, there he is.
Well, in that little scene, she goes to the car's locked, goes to get the keys, comes back inside, just opens the door. So somehow Michael Myers had gotten in that car. He's like a locksmith. Not only does this guy know how to drive, he's like a locksmith. Everything. He knew how to get into that car without breaking anything.
That's true. Now, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
And this also deals with the era, the time, because we had to remember things differently than we do now. But Lydia, played by P.J. Souls, she somehow knows the phone number of the house that Laurie is at babysitting. Maybe she babysits there sometimes. I get it. But I was impressed. Like, let me just or not even do. I think it was rotary. And so it's like she's calling her, hey, what's up? I'm like, my gosh, how does she know that number? And even if she babysat there was a time, Sal, where we had to log away numbers because that's what you had to do.
Yeah. Before computers, you had to just memorize a lot of numbers or carry a little phone book with you. Yeah, we had a lot of numbers memorized. I think, I don't know, growing up, I probably had no less than 10 numbers memorized. You know, you got your own number.
Okay, give me one. Give me one. Do you remember one of your numbers?
980-2084. That was one of my phone numbers.
980-20. Hang on. What's the area code?
That was 818, or actually at the time might have been 213.
Hey, no, I don't. We're not. Come on, give me the whole thing.
Okay. Well, let me be clear here. To the uninitiated, the 818 area code in the San Fernando Valley was once a part of the 213 area code. Mm-hmm. And this was even before the 310 area code ever came along. So my phone number was 213-980-2084. There we go.
Wow. Okay, I can remember one of mine as well growing up. It was 918-865-2065.
One more time.
And I remember it, 918-865-2065.
Okay, nice. I'm going to call it.
2065, 2065. I always remember that one. And there were more, but that was one I had that right age where you just had to log it away.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so that
Jason,
was impressive.
Wait, sorry, one more thing I wanted to comment on. Just the phrase babysitting jumps out at me, and there's a lot of babysitting happening in this movie. That was almost its own subgenre of the slasher genre, is like the babysitting. I remember there was that movie, When a Stranger Calls. You remember when she was babysitting?
Oh, yeah. The calls coming from inside the house.
Yes. So I think for a while, our culture...
Go look at the kids. Go check on the kids. The prank calls coming in.
Oh, that movie was terrifying because it tied into babysitting is terrifying. Yeah. It's scary to babysit.
Well, that spawned
I think
from
that's what
Halloween.
Movies taught us in the early 80s, late 70s.
It didn't come out before Halloween. That movie was an idea like, okay, we could really tap into this and terrify people. I saw that movie with a crowd of people, a bunch of people at a party. We're young and the parents are watching. It's one of those times where the parents and kids are all watching a movie, a scary movie, lights off. There must have been 15 people in the room. I wanted to run outside the window, like the Kool-Aid guy. I was so scared. Like if I was inside that movie, I would have run for it. Terrified me. In fact, I'm trying to remember the actress. I know her. Hang on. Quick break. I know her well. She was in the original. Hang on. Oh, my God. Everything comes up. Wasn't it Carol Kane?
I don't remember who the actress was. She was the main actress, the babysitter?
Carol Kane, 1979. So I looked it up very quickly. Came out in 1979 after Halloween, and Carol Kane played the babysitter. And just that little sequence was so terrifying. Crank call, go check on the kids. She calls the cops. They run a trace. They say the call's coming from inside the house. That's all you needed to be the biggest scare. Fear. That was real fear inside of us viewers. It was also fun when a movie could do that to you, right? Like, oh my God, it was like really just so visceral. So I kind of missed that, although as a kid, you can only handle so much. And then you have to watch like cartoons later, some Tom and Jerry, just to relax, take the edge off. Yeah, it was that was something else, but good call there.
Yeah, I would never volunteer to babysit because I ain't trying to get killed.
So, memorable kills in this movie, speaking of kills, when Michael Myers kills Bob. Mm-hmm. Like, that's where his slight self shows his strength. He holds Bob up on the... You didn't see that very often. Like, wow, he's got like this superhuman strength. Holds him in the air, but it's so smartly shot. Yeah. Credit to John Carpenter. And also, I didn't even mention this so far, but just the camera movement. Yeah, I should have started with that. Like the opening sequence when young Mike Myers, 6 years old, is going for the kill. It's in the mask POV. Yes. You don't really see anything, but you see enough. So it's like, wow, that the music, the new style camera movement, like steady cam, and then showing someone being held up in the air, all you need to see is their feet are dangling. Like, you don't really need to tell us how you're doing it. Give us the magic. We'll believe it. And he's so good at that. And Sal, killing Bob then leads to what? Which is a great moment in the movie because it brings a moment to breathe, to laugh, some levity to the scary scene. But please tell us.
Well, speaking of laughing, Jason, the first thing I laughed at was when Bob and I'm sorry, who's the girl that he's with in bed?
Oh, PJ Souls.
PJ.
Linda.
Okay. Linda. Okay, so Linda and Bob, they're having sex, and it was like 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. This guy, too pump chump Bob is.
Yeah.
Bob leaves the room to go get a beer.
He's young.
Hey, I'm not saying I haven't been there. I've never been there. Okay, he leaves to go get beers. He gets killed, yes. And then Michael Myers impersonates Bob, putting a sheet over his head and putting his glasses on over the sheet. So we have effectively Michael Myers impersonating Bob, impersonating a ghost. It's like a trifecta. And NECA even released a special edition Michael Myers as Bob the Ghost action figure. It was this.
Do you have it?
No, I did. Well, look, it was this very action figure with the sheet over it, with the glasses over it. Very expensive. More expensive than this very figure was Bob the Ghost action figure by NECA. God. It was on the market for a long time, secondary market. Probably still is on eBay right now. Check it out. And it's probably still, I would imagine, in box, at least $110 today, at least.
Sal, get a little napkin. Make it yourself.
Good.
Sell it on the second market. What are you thinking? Just crank
the
that thing up.
I just need glasses.
So it's such a funny moment because Mike Myers kills Bob, goes to the door of the room that Linda's in. She's naked, sitting in the bed, covered up and like, hey, come on, where's my beer? It easily could have just been Michael Myers. And she screams, and then we have that song and dance. It was a stroke of genius by the writers, Carpenter and Debra. Debra Hill, right? John Carpenter and Debra Hill, to invent something fun. And again, we needed to laugh there. The sheet over the head being a ghost, like a cheap ghost, wasn't Bob. It was the glasses.
Yeah.
He cut out holes. He puts on the glasses. So Mike Myers has a bit of a sense of humor, or he just wanted to play that out. Like, there was no rhyme or reason to do it, but for them to do it was great. So then, because there's a funny exchange, like, immediately she thinks it's Bob. Bob, where's my beer? Okay, you're not going to say anything. And it kind of plays on and plays on and plays on. And then again, like they do in so many movies, and in this movie in particular, she looks away, right? Isn't she on the phone or something? Because then you can see he's coming for her and she's going to be killed. But I love that moment, and I'd love to see that figure. I was hoping you had it, but very costly.
That I don't have, but I'll send you a link so you can see how much it is on eBay.
Yeah, that's great. And then this kind of leads to the end because, again, this is a very fast, linear movie. No kids were harmed except for Michael Myers' sister in the beginning because she was, however old she was. He was 6. She was probably a teenager.
I think she was 17.
Around with a guy, yeah. So she's 11 years older. But beyond that, the other kids, the babysitting kids, were all okay. It was the teenagers were not. And this great sequence with Laurie. And by the way, there are some wonderful scenes because she takes both kids back to my idea, back to my idea of babysitting more than one child. Yeah. Because Annie wants to go out and get her guy and have some fun. So then, then Laurie takes the little Richards girl. She takes Lindsay, and then they they're cooking, they're having fun. She's really a great babysitter. And we really, Laurie wins this over. She's like all-American girl. She's not off, drinking and having sex. She kind of likes a guy, but she's shy. She's a really good babysitter. Like, she's the girl next door. And that's why we want her to live. Not that we don't want the other ones to live, but in these types of movies, Sal, people have to be expendable. Some people do.
Jason, in this era, going back to this definitive era of late 70s, early 80s, promiscuous teens.
They die.
Yeah. It's like a duck hunt, for promiscuous teens in these slasher flicks. Because I don't know, do you think maybe the viewer's jealous? Like, is something in our inner psyche jealous of a promiscuous teen? So go ahead and kill him.
Yeah. Well, versus the girl who's all American It's hard. And if they're all doing that, then maybe we would look past. I would look past it anyway. But yeah, it was a different time, and it was somebody. Yeah, they're doing bad things so they can die. But then she's good and she's protecting kids, and the audience is obviously going to root for her maybe a little bit more. I mean, I liked Annie, but you also knew Annie was probably not going to make it, right? You thought she was going to get killed in the laundry room. And then the kids having sex, we didn't know them well enough. So that was more about us knowing them, identifying with them, caring about them. Like, okay, they're having sex. Myers is on the loose in the house. And by the way, these houses are creepy because, again, there's no lights. It's just creepy.
And no gates. And Jason, you and I have talked about this before.
Gates.
These properties, they don't have any gates. You can just walk right up to the front door. I am not a fan of that.
Well, we're going to talk about the location in a second, but the sequences with Laurie and Myers are fantastic. The kids are hiding, upstairs, and then they're hiding in their room. But I love that she stabs Myers with a knitting needle, right?
Yeah.
That's a great sequence. He comes up with a knife. She's super quick, whoosh, and she gets him in the neck, and then he's down, right?
Yeah.
He's down, but of course he's not a normal man. He can overcome being injured, which you hadn't seen. I think that was one of his first injuries. It's like, uh-oh, we're in trouble. Then she hides in the closet. That's another great sequence. He's tearing apart the closet. She's always crying. I did notice that Laurie, on this viewing, does cry a lot. And that's probably more realism, but like, he knows you're in there now. You're just, And then she gets a hanger, Sal, takes it apart, gets the pointy side to it, and stabs him, I think, in the eyeball, if I'm not mistaken. We think it is.
Well, I think we're led to believe she stabs him in the eye because then when his mask comes up and we get a good look, we get a pretty good look. I did a freeze frame. Pretty good look at adult 21-year-old Michael Myers. And he looks like his left eye has some sort of scar, but he wouldn't have a scar already from that stabbing. Yet he has some sort of damage to his left eye when you see him without the mask.
I love that you said freeze frame. That just dated you right there.
Freeze frame. Freeze frame. Isn't that a song?
Jake Isles Band, yeah. So that's great. But Myers gets up from the hanger, and it's that great unassisted sit-up, as you said before we started recording.
It's my new fitness move.
With great abs.
It's my new fitness move. It's the Michael Myers sit-up. It's the unassisted full sit-up from a prone position.
So good. And, of course, Laurie's looking off the other direction. When she kind of knocks him down a little bit, she, lowers her guard. Like all people do in these movies. Like, okay, we're safe now. Not so fast.
I hate when they do that. You know what? In horror movies, when they're like, "Oh, everything's okay now," I'm like, they're like pulling my hair out if I had any. Like, no, we're not safe. Chop their head off.
We're not safe. Keep going. But luckily for Laurie and the kids, if he was going to even really kill the kids, but luckily Loomis was astute. He's not just a doctor. He's also a pretty good detective because he kept going around. Went to Mike Myers' house, saw the car, went around just looking for strange things. Now, of course, it's Halloween, and maybe it's much later now because I think there'd be a lot of riffraff, and it'd be hard to, look through things. Even the movie E.T., it's Halloween in one scene. It's hard to, there's so much going on Halloween, early for sure. But he's like, no, he's looking for anything strange. Kids run out of a house. That's something strange. And then he goes in, follows his instincts. The kids make a run for it because that's what Laurie told him to do. Go get help. He goes upstairs, Sal, and let's see Loomis. Can we see Dr. Loomis? And he's in this mode. He's already got the weapon out. That's it. It's a lot like that.
This is how you would recreate it in court.
Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor.
What does he do?
He shoots Jason. He unloads the gun, Jason. He shoots Michael Myers. I think he unloads the gun, so it must have been 6 or 7 shots. Michael Myers falls off the balcony, lands on his back. He did not do an unassisted sit-up this time. But...
Well, we don't know.
Okay, you know what? He did do the unassisted sit-up. We just didn't see it because Loomis turns around. He thought it's okay. Turns back around. Michael Myers is gone.
Yeah, that's a great ending. Shoots him, multiple times, goes off outside, out of the balcony, boom, checks on Laurie, or just is looking at Laurie. And then when he walks over to see, obviously, I'll see Myers on the ground there, which is interesting. He stayed down longer from, the needle in the neck than he did 6 shots to the body.
That's
but
true.
He's gone, and then we're left, and the music comes in, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, and then it's like we know that there has to be a sequel. Great ending. And by the way, Laurie also fell downstairs. She fell off the 2nd floor and fell all the way down. We thought she had a broken back. I was like, that was a serious fall. But, she made it upstairs and hid in the closet and led to all these other things. But some great stunts. Again, dark. The whole thing is scary. It's not overly lit. It's scary. There's lots of shadows. And they keep calling him the boogeyman. The kids keep referring to him as the boogeyman. And I guess that's a good thing to call him because they don't know him as Mike Myers. They don't even know who the hell this guy is. Who is this guy chasing us around? What do we do?
Yeah.
But this brings up a sad point.
Yes.
I kept waiting for it this viewing because I hadn't seen the movie in a while. But Sheriff Lee Brackett, who's really kind of working with Loomis, and Loomis is telling him what to do sometimes. No, yeah, I'll do this. You go around the backs of the house. Okay, I got it. He's the sheriff.
Yeah.
But what we don't know, or he doesn't know, is that his daughter his daughter Annie was killed. And he doesn't even know Mike Myers exists yet. Because all that's probably coming. Loomis is going to call somebody, and then there's going to be this big ta-da and all these deaths, and we don't see that. It cuts when Myers is gone, and that's that. So maybe the second one, I need to go watch the second one again. But yeah, that's so sad that Brackett still is a little bit in disbelief that there's a Myers, and now he's got to find out that his daughter was killed.
Well, Jason,
on top of other people.
If I'm not mistaken, Sheriff Lee Brackett is one of our cast of characters in some of these recent Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends.
That's great.
Yeah, we may get a little more,
that.
a little bit of backstory on his relationship with Annie.
We might have a vengeance now, a little bit.
Or an Annie action figure, or a Sheriff Lee Brackett action figure, hopefully.
Yeah. Or maybe he'll pull a Roy from one of the Friday the 13th, and he'll be killer sometimes, filling in for Michael. That's crazy talk. I'm just kidding. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. It plays fast. It cruises right along. I mean, I was thinking about this movie today, like, wow, we're in high school for like a hot second, but most of these movies would have got caught up in all these filler characters. No, we just see Jamie Lee, Laura Stroud, look outside, see Myers, because again, he's following her. He's tracking her after she drops the keys off. But then we're out of high school, and then we're at the kids' elementary for a second, but we just don't waste time. In fact, we never see Laurie's mother. We only see her father saying, hey, drop these keys off. We just move right along. Hey, we meet a kid in the neighborhood. That kid will be the one that she babysits later. We never meet his parents. And I like it. I like that they just said, we don't need it. We don't need it. A small movie, you've got to get in and out. You got to be nimble. And they did a great job. He did, the lion's share, writing it, directing it, doing the composing. John Carpenter, bravo for bringing us Halloween, 1978.
Yeah. Probably one of my, I would definitively say, you know what? I would probably say and declare tonight, and tonight only, John Carpenter, #1 horror director of all time. And when I say that, I mean my personal favorite. My personal favorite horror director, because I'm thinking of Clive Barker, I'm thinking of Wes Craven. I love them.
I'd put him above them. Yeah.
I would officially, because you know why?
And I like other directors as well who dip into this genre but don't stay. But Carpenter made a lot of great movies.
And one of the things I love, I really, really love, that John Carpenter does his own music, his own score. I love amazing. That. Because you know what? He's like one of those triple threats, right? He can do multiple things, not just the one thing.
And music is so key when you get it right. It's easy to say, oh, it makes the movie. No, it really makes the movie. I've seen a lot of movies that had a lot of elements and bad music. I'll walk away with a bad taste in my mouth. I recently revisited Stephen King's Cat's Eye. And I was like, oh, I forgot about this movie. And it's 3 different acts, and it's like, that played really well. The music sound, no offense to the composer, it just didn't match. And I was even thinking, well, I'd like to see an alt take on this, a more toned down, less playful music. And I think it's a stronger movie. Now, it's not in this level, but Carpenter absolutely delivers. It's haunting. The score lives on. I highly recommend people to check it out. The whole score's on Spotify. So please do so. And I wanted to also mention some trivia, but one, I guess it's kind of a trivia adjacent. The houses. So at least this area. So I already talked about Mike Myers' house. That's in South Pasadena. But the main house where she's babysitting, where Laurie's babysitting and then Annie's babysitting across the street, that's on a block right in Hollywood, right in Los Angeles, that I would drive by all the time and take people who were visiting me to this block, Sal, because it's not palm trees. It's big trees in a canopy kind of street where you don't know you're in Los Angeles. So a perfect street to use, centrally located, and that is on Orange Grove Avenue, North Orange Grove to be specific. But the Wallace House, I guess that's their name, the Wallace House, the one that Laurie Strode was babysitting at, 1537 North Orange Grove Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90046. Annie was just across the street and like one over. When I went there like 15 years ago, I couldn't believe it, Sal. It was just like the movie. I always wanted to go there for Halloween because I hear it's like a big party. So very cool. I love that they did that. So, and they actually shot in Los Angeles, which doesn't happen enough, Sal, as you know.
Well, I thought this movie was shot exclusively in Pasadena, and one of the reasons I thought that, Jason, is because they recently had at the Pasadena Convention Center H45, the 45th anniversary official convention. It's every 5 years. I guess they had H30, H35, now H45, and it was in Pasadena. And then they had, in connection with that, a tour bus that took people around to the various locations of the movie.
Yeah.
So I thought this movie was entirely shot in Pasadena. I did not know about this Orange Grove location.
Yeah, well, they would just drive over there and hit the two houses, of course. So the cemetery in which Loomis goes to with the grave digger, and they see the tombstone's gone, and the tombstone being Michael Myers' sister's tombstone that he takes to the house and recreates this whole thing, kind of like honoring his sister,
Judith
whom
Myers.
he killed. Judith Myers. So he kills her, hangs on to this. He's driven by this, this evil spirit, and then puts this whole thing in her old room. But that is Sierra Madre. That is right adjacent to Alhambra and Arcadia and South Pasadena and San Marino. So there are some things that aren't in South Pass, but a lot of it, though, is right there on South Pass and on Mission, as well as the new location for the Myers house.
I have a new appreciation for Pasadena, and I'm always reminded of the Mildred Pierce movies, both the classic with Joan Crawford and then the newer one with the British gal. Her name escapes me. But they just shot a lot in Pasadena. British gal. But yeah, I like some areas of Pasadena are just downright really nice. They've got a nice,
nice.
What do you call it? Upper middle class look to them. Yeah, real nice area.
They have those, it's all those craftsmen. And if you go by the Mike Myers house, if you go down the street right in that area, you got the Teen Wolf house, Michael J. Fox's house. You have Back to the Future house, where when they go back in time and where they lived, Michael J. Fox, or again, another Michael J. Fox movie. Michael J. Fox was in Pasadena, South Pasadena a lot in the 80s. But when he goes back with his mother, who's his age, that their house is there. Doc Brown's house. Is it on Orange Grove? No, it's Doc Brown's house is so beautiful. It's the Gamble house. It's a museum, and I've done the tour. But when they cut, it's the biggest, most beautiful craftsman I've ever seen. It's real close to the Rose Bowl. And when they went inside the house in the movie, since it's a museum, they actually cheated it for another craftsman in San Marino, which I drove by one day, Sal, and said, that looks awfully familiar. It looks so much like it looks like it could have had Back to the Future there. And I pulled over and looked it up, and that was the house that had the interiors, because I didn't want them in there. So a lot of these things happen in that area. The Player was shot at the Rialto Theater over there. Great Robert Altman movie. So Christine, the house from Christine where he lived, was in Pasadena or South Pasadena, I would get on my scooter back in the day and go around there because it's a lot easier to be on a scooter and pull over and like, oh, there it is, get some photos. And I love it, man. That area, I recommend it. The Mad Men house is in South Pasadena, Father of the Bride house. So many iconic homes. But we need to have a tour business.
I think it's really great, and I want to visit Pasadena now again.
You live close. I'm a
I
long
do.
way away now.
I live close because I do find myself in San Marino on occasion. I do find myself at the
so great
Huntington
there.
Gardens on occasion.
Oh,
So I'm going
my
to take
gosh,
a
amazing.
visit, take a tour through South Pass next time.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I've been to his house. It's over there. Wow. South Pass or Pass. Like there's a line, some of them are South Pasadena, some are Pasadena.
Yes.
They're all the same. They're all right there. Beautiful,
Shout out
beautiful,
Pasadena.
beautiful. Shout out indeed. It's one of my favorite places. I was always an East Sider. Always an East Sider. And by the way, the Gamble House is a museum, and it is at 4 Westmoreland Place, Pasadena 91103. Check that out. Just drive by. I used to take people and say, okay, now look, and pull over, and it's so beautiful. It's breathtaking. And that's Doc Brown's house, the exterior from Back to the Future.
I'll check it out.
So now we have a little bit of trivia and wrap up this exciting episode of Halloween Just Rewatched. And here we go, Sal, because I know you're going to help me out with some of it with the inflation calculator. I know that's
Yes.
coming.
Yes.
So the story of Halloween is based on an experience John Carpenter had in college touring a psychiatric hospital. Carpenter met a child who had dull eyes, who stared at him with a look of evil, and it terrified me, said John Carpenter. And that was the jumping off point to writing this psychotic killer. So amazing. You got to have inspiration somewhere, Sal. And that was it.
Jason, this idea that a child can be evil, speaking of, as an aside but related, my mother told me she needed some chores done at her house. She invited 3 little kids over to help pick up leaves or whatever. And she told me recently that one of these kids she thinks is evil.
Wow.
She thinks one of the little boys was evil. So like when it came time to pay them at the end of the day, she just wanted to pay this kid and get him the hell out of there because this kid was evil. So I guess some children can be evil. And I'm thinking back to when I was a kid. I was a kid. There were definitely some kids that I think were evil to me. To me, they were evil. Like I saw them as evil kids. I remember one kid killed a hamster right in front of me. If that's not an evil kid, I don't know what that is, So yeah, kids can be evil like Michael Myers.
Sal, why don't you take this next one? Short trivia, but very interesting.
I found this very interesting, and I would like to duplicate this at some point. The stabbing sound effect, was produced by stabbing a watermelon. They stabbed a watermelon to get that fleshy sound.
That's amazing.
It's a disturbing sound.
Because in Psycho, it was like an instrument. It was like a violin or something, right?
Yes.
But in this, it was a watermelon. You hear it hitting something clearly, something dense. Amazing. Yeah, I did not know that, so that's incredible. Now, I've talked about this a little bit already, but John Carpenter I talked about John Carpenter's love of Psycho, but John Carpenter considered the hiring of Jamie Lee Curtis as the ultimate tribute to Sir Alfred Hitchcock, who had given her mother, Curtis's mother, Janet Leigh, legendary status in Psycho 1960. And for the same reason, Sal, Dr. Sam Loomis was named after Sam Loomis from Psycho. So there's some tips of the cap for you right there. Turns out Jamie Lee Curtis would have a great career and staying power. And she was in that horror lane for a while, Terror Train, and she was making scary movies, and then she became a more bona fide actress. And Janet Leigh, of course. Interesting that Lee, spelled the same, was also the name of the sheriff. So a lot of little tips of the cap.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that for the newbies, for the uninitiated, because I don't take for granted history, let alone movie history. But yes, Jamie Lee Curtis's mother was Janet Leigh, who was killed in the shower scene, the iconic shower scene in the original Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock.
It would have only been better if Jamie Lee Curtis was Annie and she was killed, or Linda. but she lived.
True, but then we wouldn't have been able to have her in subsequent.
I know. Well, they didn't probably
Halloweens,
plan
yeah.
on that. You know, there could have been more psychos, and there were, but I mean a lot more. But, okay, here's a really interesting one, and one that we need to talk about. I know you'll be chiming in on, but because of the film's tight budget, the production designer, Tommy Lee Wallace, had to use whatever he had at his disposal. When he created the Michael Myers mask, he made 2 versions, Sal. The first one was a Don Post Emmett Kelly smiling clown mask with frizzy red hair, which appeared very demented and creepy. Sal, what does that remind you of?
Well, a clown mask was reminiscent then of the first mask that we see in the beginning.
Oh, yeah, exactly, right? Yes,
That's what that would be like. So you can imagine then it would have looked something. Wait till you see this.
See it. Oh, my God. Weird. Just kind of weird.
Adult Michael Myers wearing the original child Michael Myers mask, but instead we wound up with the classic.
Yeah. And we did that because the other mask that Wallace made was a 1975, wait for it, Captain James T. Kirk. And that would be of what franchise, Sal?
That would have to have been a Star Trek mask, and I didn't even know that they made those.
And who played James T. Kirk?
Jason, while I was watching Halloween on Crackle just yesterday on Halloween.
Crackle.
You gotta watch commercials. They had a commercial real quick. It was so fast. I think it was a preview of an upcoming show. And guess who's in it? William Shatner was in a little commercial during the Halloween. Yeah, that's James T. Kirk portrayed by William Shatner.
And he purchased, Wallace that is, this mask for $1.98. Now, Sal, this is in 1978. Get your inflation calculator ready. How much is that in today's world?
In today's world, $1.98 in 1978 would be, in 2023, $9.48, which is still a steal of a deal for a Halloween mask, especially a nice quality one.
I don't think they had this in mind when they cranked out the 1975 Captain James T. Kirk mask, that it would go on and have a bigger life in the Halloween franchise. It probably wasn't the plan, but well done, Wallace. Now, they made some alterations because, show Mike Myers again, it does not look like Kirk. I'm sorry, it doesn't look like Captain Kirk. It just doesn't. Because, Sal, they had the eyebrows and sideburns ripped off, the face painted bluish white, which it does look that, and the hair spray painted brown. And then the eyes were opened up more, and doing so made this mask much creepier because it was emotionless. Much like that kid in the hospital that Carpenter saw when he was in college. So it works well. I thought, I'd heard this before, and I guess it's wrong, that it was a James T. Kirk mask inside out. Like they just rolled it up and rolled it inside out. But they made these alterations, and that's what happened. It was emotionless, creepier, and it's true. You don't need a mask to be very expressive, you know? And then, of course, another franchise would take an idea like this and run with it, and that would be what, Sal?
Oh, yeah, that would be, of course, Friday the 13th in the iconic Jason hockey mask. In fact, just yesterday I was in a store. I saw a little it was like a little, sort of like a little plaque, had hockey players on there. One of them had a mask. And guess what? As soon as I saw this plaque, I didn't think hockey. I thought Friday the 13th, Jason.
There you go.
And then the second thought was, oh, no, this is actual hockey memorabilia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they play hockey, too. That's right. Yeah, that was a stroke of genius. The hockey mask is fantastic. It's very iconic. But there you go. That's the backstory on the mask. Fascinating. Sal, we've got to get more of these collectibles to add to your list here, I think.
Well, Jason, I saw a friend of mine attended the H45. In fact, 2 friends of mine attended the H45 convention in Pasadena, yeah. And they took pictures of some masks that were there, some screen-used masks. And, man, they look great. They look scary. They looked really good. There's probably, at this point, a whole slew of these masks, in particularly ones that were used on screen.
Wow. Well, this is the last trivia I have before we sign off. And this is a good one. And I'll need your help again with that calculator. But with a budget of $300,000, with a 20-day shoot, the film went on to gross $47 million at the U.S. box office. Now, that number could be higher. This number could have been 10 years old or whatever, but you can already see just how massive of a hit it was. And Halloween is definitely one of the most successful independent films of all time. But Sal, how much would that be today using your inflation calculator? How successful was this movie?
Jason, I want to start first at the $300,000. Okay, so $300,000 in 1978 is the equivalent in 2023 of nearly $1,500,000.
Okay.
Yeah, $1,436,000. Now,
okay.
the inflation calculator, unfortunately, does not let you put in anything above $10 million.
$1 billion.
Yeah, so I had to do these multiples. But what we learned then is in the equivalent of today's dollars, the movie made about $200 million.
Wow.
From 47, right? From a million and a half to about 200 million or 200.
And that's just this first movie, not the merch, not the sequels, yada, 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 not the score. This movie has not died. I mean, Carpenter didn't even have to really, he didn't need to make a bunch of the things, or he could just make really good movies that were, close to him. He probably didn't want to stay in this lane, but he probably wrote, cashed those checks and said, okay, sure. Okay, yeah, sure, go ahead. I'd love to know his deal, right? Like, did he get points because, he had so many hats? Like, I'll just take a low salary. Give me some. This is going to be a small movie. Like, those are fascinating things to find out if we could. But I'm sure he did well and set the stage for what he would work on next. So, I mean, what an incredible movie.
I feel like we could use a John Carpenter action figure. It's not unheard of. It's not unheard of for them to make these action figures we wouldn't think they would. Like, for example, they've got a whole line of classic stand-up comedian action figures coming out. You've got Lenny Bruce coming out, Joan Rivers coming out, one more which escapes me. You could conceivably have, they made a Stan Lee, Marvel Comics, Stan Lee
I can see that.
figure.
He's kind of a character, too.
You can make a John Carpenter
How about a Jason
action figure?
and Sal podcasting figures?
I will buy it. I will buy my own.
Put it behind you. I love that.
I'll put a Jason behind me. You put a Sal behind you.
Oh, that's great. Well, Sal, anything else before we sign off? This has been a really great episode. I knew we'd go over the hour mark easy because there's just a lot to unpack here. And we didn't even do a scene-by-scene breakdown, but we really got into the weeds, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, Jason, you asked me, you said, hey, Sal, I want to watch a movie on Halloween. Let's both watch a movie on Halloween. I said, great. You said, what should we watch? I said, well, aside from the Halloween franchise, there are a few movies that I think of as Halloween movies. Yeah, you got movies that are scary, right? And you got some movies that have Halloween elements. But if you're going to watch a movie on Halloween, I think it's got to be one of the Halloween movies for sure. And that's what we did. So we enjoyed Halloween yesterday. Yeah. You in Rhode Island, me in California. And now here we are talking about it. So this has been a lot of fun.
It has been. And I really pushed for Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And no, I did not. I have yet
You're going to watch that, though.
movie.
Trust me, you're going to like that.
I am going to watch it. I'll do it in order, even though it's got nothing to do with anything. I find it humorous that this installment exists. But we did it, Sal. We did it. I'm proud of us. And we may come back and break down or at least talk about some of the other movies in the franchise. There's a lot of them. So, but I'll probably, from a viewing standpoint, I'll revisit Halloween 2, 1981 next. Loomis is going at it again.
And I'll be here playing with my Sam Loomis and Michael Myers action figures.
Well done. So thank you so much for listening. And please be sure to subscribe to the Let's Talk Movies podcast and the Let's Talk Movies. Sorry, I got the wrong thing hit. And the Let's Talk Movies YouTube channel. You can also really help us by giving the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast.
And for all you listeners that enjoy sharing your thoughts, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, send us a direct message, or post a comment on any Let's Talk Movies social media platform.
We also highly recommend checking out our other podcast and visiting justcuriousmedia.com. Great job.
Jason, let me just do one more. I thought I heard something outside.
Go ahead.
And for all you listeners that enjoy sharing your thoughts, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, send us a direct message, or post a comment on any Let's Talk Movies social media platform.
Nailed it. Stopping.
Thank you.
And stop.